Hello everyone and welcome on board our first ever video on the Fly From Home channel. As it's our first video, let me provide a little bit of information about ourselves. So Fly From Home is intended to be a channel where we can provide you with flight sim content, and it's going to be produced by real world experienced pilots. We're going to aim to cover a vast range of content from the basics of flying a light aircraft all the way up to flight deck and some multi-crew demonstrations. Firstly, let's start with a quick insight about myself and a colleague that I've got joining me today. So, my name is Jimbo. I've got about 17 years of flying experience, and most recently I've been working for a UK regional airline for about the last 3 years as a rank of captain. I better not tell you who I work for though. And before then, I was a flying instructor for 3 years, teaching private, commercial, aerobatics and various other things. And I've got joining me in this video today, I've got Kittykami. Over to you, Cami. Say a little bit about yourself.
Hello everyone, and thanks for having me on the channel today, Jimbo. As mentioned, I'm Kittykami, or at least online I am, and I've been flying on and off since I was about 14 years of age. For the last 3 and a bit years, I've been a commercial flying instructor, teaching students PPLs, CPLs, a little bit of multi-engine stuff, all sorts of bits and pieces here and there, for a major modular training school in the UK. I also had a position, up until recently, as an FO at the same regional airline as Jimbo. Oh, I'm going to have to throw back over to you before I start crying.
So this is where we're going to start today, as you might have noticed with our background. We've got this excellent Bombardier Q400, or Dash 8 as it's also known, and it's an add-on by Majestic on version 4 of Prepared. Quick little spin around the outside for you guys. Beautiful. And as you can see, we've got this wonderful purple livery on it as well. So within this video, we're going to demonstrate to you how two members are going to work together. We're using the inbuilt shared cockpit feature of the Majestic add-on, which you can see in the top left corner of my screen. We're going to begin from a cold and dark aircraft at Birmingham Airport in England, and as you can see, stand 8 left. I'm going to lead you through the process a real flight crew would take to find our way over to Amsterdam in the Netherlands. And they're going to release this over the coming weeks in a multi-part video series to kick off the new channel, starting with this first video today. So we'll be aiming to provide a brief detailed description of each system as we go through, but we don't want to go into extreme amount of detail in the main video just to try and keep it south of an hour's duration. So any of you that do want to know any more about any of the systems, or anything really, just leave us a comment, and what we can do is make a detailed separate video for you, and then we can link it into this main video. Hopefully it'll form a collection of our videos, so if you guys enjoy this first series enough, where we can cover lots of different routes that I used to do within my previous airline that we thought would be interesting or unique enough to share with you. And if you are curious about the add-ons and software that we use in Prepared version 4 in these videos, we can link them in the description below. Just one more thing before we start. We're going to be using checklists, performance tables and procedures that will be coming from the airline we used to be a part of. Don't be afraid though, the add-on does come with its own version of all these things. You shouldn't worry too much if there are discrepancies between what we're referring to and what you have available to you. We're just trying to give you the full realistic experience of what we were doing on the line for real. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the video. Right, so without further ado, let's take a look at this Q400. Let me just jump to the outside. So, as you can see, the doors are open, so once we're powered up sufficiently, the cabin crew, who on board this virtual flight today, we have Karen as our number 1 and Victoria as our number 3. So between the cabin crew and the dispatcher, locally known as Fat Terry, he's got a few family problems that he's very chatty. He can make a walk around take twice as long as it's supposed to. They're going to start boarding the passengers when they're all ready to do so. While that's going on, we're expecting 72 passengers on this aircraft. Brief look at the config there. We'll also go through the fueling and the loads when we start looking at programming it into the flight management systems. Incidentally, just while I'm on that subject, the Majestic Q400 config seems to be missing 2 seats at the back compared to what I'm used to on the line. I think there's a lot of configs available on this aircraft, So they've just gone with another another operator's specification rather than the one I am used to. We used to have 78 seats on ours. We're taking 72, so not quite full, and as you can see where they're sat on the config. While I remember as well, there's a few things that are missing on this Majestic cold and dark setup that you would normally expect to see on the line. So first of all, on the overhead panel here, the ignitions are left off overnight, so I'm just going to flick those to the off position. Wouldn't leave them on overnight. There's not much risk of anything happening, but they are just in the off position. And the position light, leave that on, so that as soon as power comes to the aircraft, then if it is powered up, the position lights will be on straight away without having to do anything. People can see that it's powered up externally. And then lastly, just on the glare shield on my side, the spoiler control flight taxi switch, it actually springs back to the flight position when it's depowered. So as soon as the power went off the night before, it jumped back to flight. As well as this, what we tend to do as well is all the systems, so the FMSs and the ARC-DOs, that's your audio and radio control display units, they would be off. But so would most of the screens, so they're actually left in the on position at the moment. The only screen that is left running for when it powers up is MFD2. And I'm sure Cami will tell you and show you why that is. It's just so we can get some information up as soon as we power up. So what we do now is first flight of the day. The captain usually does the first walk around. This can change. It does change sometimes, but it's usually the preference that the captain will get off. Leave the first officer to do the first flight checks, which include a few flows, get everything powered up, and captain will go and do the walk around. Not really a lot I can show you on this, especially on simulator. In any of the simulators, we don't expect to have any bees stuck in the pitot heads or birds nesting in the intakes, nor will anything be loose or about to fall off. So not a lot I need to show you really on this aspect. If anyone does want to see what a walk around entails, it's very similar for almost all aircraft, but I can make a separate video. Just leave us a comment. So without further ado, that's my little introduction over. I'm going to hand you over and get myself off the aircraft while Cami starts on the next part, which will be his little flows on the flight deck. So, Cami, over to you.
Right, okay guys, welcome over here to the FO's side of the cockpit. What I'm going to do first of all, while Jimbo, the captain, is out there pretending to do his walk around and chatting to the ground crew and eyeing up the passengers, is getting the aircraft from the config it was left in by the last crew, or the engineers for that matter, into a state in which we can load passengers and prepare for pushback and departure. So, first of all, we're going to start off with a flow on the overhead panel, which is going to go in a W across the overhead. We're then going to come and do a flow across the glare shield panel, and then the primary instrument panel, and then the pedestal, finishing off on the little panel just by my right leg, the little side pedestal. And once that's all complete, the aircraft should be in a state where we can get the passengers on board, and the captain can come back on and start his bits and pieces as well. So, first of all, we're going to start off on the overhead panel, and I'm going to flick on the master and all the standbys. The standby OGs and main battery switches are just there for if any of them are need isolating for any various reasons. So we've got all of those turned on now, so we can come down to the instrument panel again. As you can see, all the TIFA tests are on the main instrument panel here. Slight discrepancy with what the real aircraft would do. They wouldn't come on until the screens are individually turned on, and as Jimbo mentioned, only the co-pilot side or the first officer side MFD is left in the active state overnight. So a little bit of a discrepancy there, but it's nothing too serious. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to power up all the bits and pieces here, including all the screens. So PFD1 and MFD1, and PFD2 and MFTD. I'm not going to turn these up too bright because they can get quite glaring if you do it too much. I'm also going to fire up the FMS control display units there, and come back and flick over the ARC2s onto FMS setting as well, and also remember to turn the engine display, the ED, up as well, which is just in the middle of those. Okay, while we're here, let's just take a quick look at the electrical panel. So as you can see, we've got a minus on the battery loads, so that's indicating that the battery is discharging. If you leave it for long enough in the sim, you are going to run out of battery and run out of power. Just hear a little pre-flight announcement there. So we don't run out of battery, we're going to go straight up to the overhead and click on the external power. We've got a little ground cart attached out there, so that's going to provide us with DC external power. And you can hear now all the cooling fans for the equipment have just come on, indicating we're under external power, and also you've got the little green notation here on the electrical panel. And the minuses have now gone away on the loads, so that indicates basically that the battery is now charging. There's no plus indication. If there's no minus, then that just means that it's charging. So we're now all good on that front.
If anyone was curious, we tend to use ground power on stand. There is a cost aspect to it as well, and in fact, you might be surprised to know that sometimes ground power can be more expensive than APU, so we wouldn't use it. But the favoured approach is usually ground power is cheaper. You'd fire everything up on that, then when it came to actually begin the push, you would fire up the APU just before that, so you can push and start the engines while you're pushing. This would be the quickest way of getting out, in fact, because if you stay on stand and start the engines there, you're wasting valuable push time. That's really it.
Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the NFTs into the config we would usually have them for getting the aircraft ready and loading passengers. And to do that, I'm going to put the captain's side MFT over to systems, and then I'm going to hit doors, which is going to put the doors on both screens, but we don't need doors times 2. So what I'm going to do is basically fool the airplane system into defaulting back to the first page on my side. So I've got the electrical on my side and the doors on the captain's side. So that's what we need for that. So I'm going to pop back up now to the overhead panel, and we're going to start our first flow, which is going to start on the DC control part of the overhead panel just up there. So first of all, the DC gens are on, and the main bus tie is on there in the middle. The bus fault reset should always spring back to off, and it is in the off position there. And the external power has been turned on. Coming down, we've got the ice protection pneumatic panel there. So the pneumatic boots are all in the off position here, both the manual and the airframe automatic mode there in the off. AC electrically heated props in the off position aren't going to do anything because we don't have any AC power on the ground, but it's always worth checking that they're off. We don't want to be overloading the AC gens by having those on when we start those up, when the engines come up to the right RPM for those to start working. The engine intake bypass doors are both closed, and closed is displayed on the switch lights. Reference speeds in the off position there, a little bit of a misnomer with the reference speeds. Doesn't actually change any of the reference speeds. It just changes the minimum safety speed on the airspeed indicator barber pole. But we don't want that set on for any reason. It's just to basically make up for the fact that the aircraft's performance is degraded by the presence of ice. Coming down, we've got boot air in the normal position. The pitot-static system is all off. The windshield heat is off. The wipers are parked and off. And the captain's side heated window is turned off. There isn't a first officer's side for some kind of bias reason. If anyone wants to know, by the way, anything else about the ice protection system, please leave us a comment. And if so, we'll provide a separate video where we go into a real sort of extreme level of detail. And we'll test these systems after the engine starts as well for you as well, so we can show you how that works. Right, we're going to come up to the top now in our W shape, and the next one is the lovely bright stripy yellow panel.
That's the scary panel. We don't like that one.
Yeah, that's the one. If you ignore all the flashing and bleeping things from this, you'll very quickly become the little dog out of that meme saying this is fine with all the flames around you. So we need to make sure that everything's working, so we don't become a very bright, shining secondary sun in the sky. or if we do, we can at least put it out. So we start with the APU, and we use the fire test button there. So we've got the lights that come up here, which indicate that it's working. We also have the check fire on the caution warning panel here, the flashing red one in the bottom left-hand corner. And we've finished the test there. One reason we wouldn't test this with the APU running as well, if we were to test it, hit that button when the APU is turned on, it turns the APU immediately off, which is one way to wind the captain up if he's out there doing his walk around and suddenly the APU powers down. But we're under ground power today, as previously mentioned, so it's not a problem. Coming across to engine 1 and 2 fire test. Pop it over to engine 1 first of all. Got the lights and the audio. Coming down, we've again got the caution warning panel, check fire, and we also have the fire lights on the glare shield on both sides there. So they're all working as they should. And we can go over to engine 2. And we've got the same effects. So we'll shut that up now. Baggage side of things, we've only got smoke detectors on this side. So the engines and the APU have got actual fire detectors. Baggage only has smoke detectors. The aft baggage, the top one here, has 2 tests. So we'll do the first one there. We've got the lights and the audio. And the second one. And again the lights and the audio. And they all go out when you move it back to the middle. The forward compartment, much smaller. So it only gets 1 test. Stick it on that, and as you can see, the lights and the audio working as they should. So that is our fire and smoke panel all tested. Coming down, next panel down, we've got the flight data recorder test. So we'll pop that onto ground test. What that's going to do is just basically turn the flight data recorder on and get rid of the little notation in the top right of the caution warning panel. Back to norm, it's going to pop back up again and give us the audio warning. Normally that's connected to the aircraft's anti-collision light, so as soon as we flick the anti-collision light on, that's going to come on. That's the normal way that it operates. ELT, we're going to pop that over to the test position now. And as you can see, the red light has come on, which indicates it's working normally. Incidentally, for anyone interested, the ELT is the emergency locator transmitter. It's a little GPS transmitter that will give the aircraft's position away if we were to make bit of an off-base landing, just so the emergency services can come out and find us with a nice big yellow helicopter. From there, we're coming down, we've got the PFD altimeter units set to feet instead of feet and meters. We're in the UK, if you couldn't tell by the accent, so we've got a weird hybrid sort of system of measurement. Feet for the altitude, meters for horizontal visibility, nautical miles for distances, hectopascals or millibars for pressure, and of course the length of a sip for temperature of coffee. Very, very important one there. Coming up to the lighting panel here, I'm just going to get the backlights up to a nice level there, so we can have a nice romantic ambience on the flight deck. The most important thing about flying with any captain is to set the mood correctly. Coming just below there, we've got the storm dome lights. So the storm lights are the little backlights for the instrument panel, and the dome light is the one overhead, so we can have them on both on or just the storm lights. Incidentally, the little dome, the separate one here, is actually connected directly to the battery, so it can run the battery down if you leave that in the on position, so it's important to check that that's in the off position before you leave the aircraft. What it's used for is if you were to arrive at the aircraft on a very dark night or morning for that matter, and you could flick that straight on. As you can see, it's a different shape to any of the other switches on this overhead panel, so you can feel for it with your hand and recognise it just by touch and flick it on and get some illumination onto the flight deck. Coming down from there, we've got the APU. It's not on, as has been explained, but all of the switch lights are off. Engine panel just below there, the ignitions need to go to the on position. The switch light for the start is out and the selector is in the middle. Pressurization panel. First things first, I'm going to wind the landing altitude down to 0. That's basically because Amsterdam is resident in the first circle of hell. It's actually below sea level, so we don't need that anywhere near where it was set, so we'll leave that on 0. Manual is off, the dumps in auto position, and the forward outflow valve is closed. As we can come across here to the indications here, we're reading that the differential pressure is 0, the altitude is reading ambient pressure, so airfield elevation, and cabin rate is 0 as well, so that's all reading as it should. Coming down to the exterior lights, we make sure all of these are in the off position, because we don't want to be burning out the retinas of any of our ground crew. That's one way to make Terry your eternal enemy, if you make him blind. Coming across for the exterior lights, we've just got the positions on, and everything else is off. Coming across now, we've got the emergency lights switch, so we're going to pop those on. Fasten seatbelts can come on as we're loading passengers. No smoking light, we'll stick those on anyway. The aircraft that we're used to, the no smoking would be on all the time anyway, and all this switch does is give you a little bong in the cabin if you want to confuse any of the cabin crew. But we'll leave it in the on position just for the avoidance of doubt. The test, caution warning panel test, we can pop up there. As you can see, all of the lights have come on, warnings and the cautions. This is just to make sure that none of the bulbs are out. We do carry plenty of backup bulbs on the flight deck to make sure all of those are working. We can replace any of them which aren't. Come down to the advisories. It puts all the advisory lights on. So as you can see on the ice protection panel, the fire panel, APU control, all of those come up again just to test to make sure we don't need any replacement bulbs on there. Dim and bright. We can dim the panel for nighttime operation so it doesn't destroy your night vision. Finally coming up to the penultimately coming up to the air conditioning panel, we've got the recirc fans in the on position here, so basically just gives you a very light blow from the overhead gasper switches. It's not really useful on very hot days, but it's not massively hot today, so we should be okay with that. With the doors open and the recirc fans on, it should keep the passengers moderately cool until we can start the engines and actually get some proper air-conditioned air coming in. The bleeds are in the off position. We always start with the bleeds in the off position. It's actually a precedent for Dash 8s and for other aircraft. If you start with the bleeds on, you can potentially get a fume or smoke incident in the cabin, and obviously we don't want that. Coming down for the bleeds, we've got them set to the minimum position. It's the position we use for takeoff and landing. Cruise, we can pump them up a little bit, but for flight critical stages, we leave them in the minimum position there. We've actually got a temperature detector just here, and the temperature gauge just to the left of it. So we've got the cabin duct temperature, the flight compartment duct, and the cabin temperature. As you can see, around about 20 degrees today. We don't actually have a flight compartment temperature sensor because apparently they don't care about the flight crew. So we'll just leave that on cabin there. The packs are in the auto position, and the two temperature control switches are in the 12 o'clock position there. Coming up finally to the AC control panel. AC external power, we can turn that on if we want. Mostly that would be used by engineers usually. It requires a separate AC external power unit, which we don't have on the stand with us today. So we'll leave that in the off position, and both the AC gens are on. So now we're going to go down, and seeing as the captain's still out there shooting the breeze with the ground crew and eyeing up the passengers, we can pop over and sit in his seat. And we're going to start on the captain's side pedestal. So I'm just going to move the viewpoint forward a little bit so we can see that a little better. First of all, we've got this little switch here. It's just to indicate that the ground crew has connected their headset to a little port on the forward landing gear. GPWS flap override switch, so we make sure that that's not pressed, not lit up, and the guard is closed. Circuit breaker lights, so this is to light up the big circuit breaker panel just behind the captain. I'll flip it around and show you there, this panel here. It's not night time, so we shouldn't need that on, that's in the off position. Windscreen wiper ice detector, that lights up a little spigot on the windscreen wiper arm, which is there to show you if the tail is potentially icing up. If you start picking up ice on that, then it will indicate that the ice is building up on the tail. Shouldn't need that because, again, we're flying in the daytime. Little dimmer switch for the backlights on this panel, so we can turn those up again for that nice ambience. Prop overspeed governor test, we can't do that while the engines aren't running, so we'll leave that. Takeoff warning test, just do a quick check of that audio warning there. Air data computer test, we can do at this point though, so we can flick it over to test 1. And we can see that the air data computer is giving us a load of strange readings and also an audio warning. So it's doing an internal test. click back to the middle, and it goes back out again. Test 2 will give us a few different readings on that. And again, the same audio warning.
You might have noticed that the tones are the same. So that beeping you're hearing, Cami didn't quite specify. That's actually your overspeed warning as it's doing the air data test. And it actually is identical to your takeoff warning test. Just a shared sound in the very basic system they use for generating sounds and making symbols in this aircraft. But it's just the way a lot of aircraft are, really. You're not likely to have the same scenario happen at once, the wrong takeoff config and you're overspeeding, so hopefully you won't make that mistake.
There we go. So next thing along, we've got the stall warner test. So we'll pop that on, we'll get an audio, and we'll also hear the stick shaker operating. There we go, indicates that they're working, and the nose wheel steering is in the off position. Want to make sure that that's the case, because if the nose wheel steering were connected and we would start wiggling the tiller around here, potentially we're going to start swinging a tow bar around and breaking people's kneecaps, which again isn't going to make the ground crew particularly big fans of us.
If you had hydraulic pressure, of course.
If you had hydraulic pressure.
Or residual.
So coming up now, we'll do the glare shield. So start off with the flight and taxi switch. So as Jimbo mentioned, these default to the flight position in the real aircraft, so we've set them up to represent that. So I'll flip that down to the taxi position for the spoilers. So all the other button lights, switch lights are out on here. The clock is reading correctly, and the chronometer isn't running. And what we can do now is we can do a quick GPWS test. So in order to do that, we're going to have to put my side MFD over onto nav, and to make sure we've got weather and terrain selected on this side. And I'm going to do a quick short push of the GPWS test. You're going to hear the audio indications.
Terrain.
In the real aircraft, it would sweep to give all the terrain colours as well on the MFD. Slight shortfall in the sim there. Okay, so that's the GPWS test. Well, I've got the MFD set to nav. I'm just going to do the TCAS test as well. So, click on here, expand, hit the test, and you should be able to see now a little bunch of symbols pop up there. And then we've got the audio warning as well, slightly more severe than the one we've got in the real aircraft, or at least the ones we're familiar with. Autopilot disengaged.
I just pressed the autopilot button by mistake.
Thought that was funny. Right. We'll pop back over to the captain side and zoom back into the glare shields. 1 second. Okay, the GPWS test is done. We've done the TCAS. We can put the MFD2 back to the electrics page now, and we can go back to the autopilot control panel, or the flight guidance control panel as it's called in this aircraft. So first of all, we're going to have to set runway course for our departure runway today. Jimbo, I wonder if you could let me know what our departure runway is today.
Stand by, I'll get that for you. There'll be 3-3 in use.
Okay, runway 33. So if I remember rightly, that's 327.
That's the one.
Look at that. So we'll set the course and the heading bug to 327 for runway heading. I'll get there eventually. There we go. Nav source, we'll leave it on nav 1 for now. We flip that over. Well, in fact, no, we'll put that over onto FMS1 for the captain's side. Selected altitude. If we knew what the initial altitude was, we'd pop that in now, but we don't have a clearance just yet, and we don't know exactly what SID we're going to get, so we'll just leave it on 0. Everything else, all the lights are out on here. Nav source for the first officer's side, we can pop over to FMS2, and again, we can put 327 onto the course here.
You can't see that when it's set to FMS2.
Ah, of course, yeah. Nav 2 and 327 on here. There we go. Put it back on FMS2. There. Okay. We can move across to First Officer's side glare shield now. Again, all the switch lights are out. GPWS test we don't need to do twice. The clock we've already checked on the captain's side. Elevator trim and stick pusher is out. Anti-skid, just pop it to the test position. It's going to put a little caution on and then leave it in the on position. We'll cancel that caution there. Okay, so we're going to go back over to the captain's side now. And we're going to do the primary instrument panel. So just get the camera in the right position for this. Okay, so starting on the far left side of the panel here, we've got the speed bugs. So we're going to be talking about those in depth later, so I'm going to leave them for now. Baro set, so that's basically your barometric altimeter. You can set that to the current QNH, which is 1034. We've got quite high pressure in the UK here today. So we'll set that to 1034. And it should be giving us airfield elevation, which is roughly 340 feet, so we've got that correct there. That all checks out. We're also going to mirror that on the standby instrument here. Just below that, we've got the decision height and the minimum descent altitude bug here. So we're going to wind off the decision height because we're going to be doing any kind of Cat 2 approaches. That's linked to the aircraft's radar altimeter, by the way. Coming over to the MD8, we're going to wind that up to 1,000 feet above airfield elevation. So that's going to be 1340 for today's flight. And this is linked to the aircraft's flap retraction altitude. And I'll let Jimbo describe that one for you in a little bit. Just move things across. ED is looking okay. Landing gear is in the down position. We've got 3 green lights, no yellows displayed. We can do the gear horn test. If I can get it to go the right way. There we go. GPWS landing flap. We can switch that to 15, as we're more than likely going to be landing with flap 15. Also, that's usually left in the flap 15 overnight. Coming across, we've still got the electrical page displayed, giving us DC power on and telling us we're still charging. PFT is giving us altitude mismatch, so we're going to sort that in a second. That's all fine other than that. Again, First Officer side speed bugs, we'll touch on those in a little bit. We're going to set the Baro to 1034. And the decision height and the MDH are copied over from the other side, so we've got all those on there. Okay, so from there, we're going to go to the center pedestal now. We're almost done. Bear with me. So we've got the 2 FMSs. Just hit accept on there. We'll check the dates. So we're safe until the 17th of June 2020. It's the 25th of May today, so we're well in date on those. Fuel control transfer is in the middle. The 2 switch lights for the aux pumps are out. All the engine controls are blank. The autofeather test, we're going to hit that now and start running the autofeather test. As you can see, autofeather select and autofeather test in progress is coming up on the ED here. So we'll let that run, and while it runs, we'll do a few other bits and pieces. So the screens, we will have them set up before. We don't need to test anything on or change anything on here just now. Just below that, you've got the cockpit voice recording microphone. Is it still testing? Yes, it is. Right. Don't forget, coming back now. We'll look at the throttle quadrants. Trims are set in the white arc. Parking brake is engaged. The throttles are set to disc. The control lock is on. The props are set to fuel off. The flaps are 0. Coming down to the trim panel now. Aileron trim is neutral. Rudder trim I'm going to set over to just a couple of needles widths to the right of center. The reason for that, on takeoff due to something called the P effect, propeller effect, propeller slipstream effect, we get quite a hefty yaw to the left-hand side of the runway. So to prevent us ending up in the gutter, or to help prevent us ending up in the gutter, we're going to set the trim over to the right a little bit to counteract that. Below that, we've got the setup for the systems on both side doors, obviously, and the electrics. The radios, or the ARC2s, we'd probably pop in all our frequencies at this point. So departure frequencies on the comms, listen to the ATIS on the COM2.
VOR 1 and 2, we'd set that up with the ILS for departure of whatever runway we were departing from, and also any other useful frequencies for whatever SID we were flying. We'd set up
You can have those if you like. They're 110.1.
Okay, pop those.
That's the ILS.
110.1, and we'll mirror that on the other side as well.
SID-wise, you could use Daventry. I'm sure you know what Daventry is.
Yeah. Pop Daventry in on the standby. On both sides. There we go.
NDB 406.
The Bravo Hotel X-Ray, I believe it's called.
There you go.
There we go, and put that on the standby for number 2.
And just don't forget as well, incidentally, if you've not already noticed, it's worthwhile setting your your radio navigation aid sources just above the throttles as well. You can select who has what information on their compass rows on their PFD.
Yep. Right. So flick that back to normal. Last thing we're going to look at on this panel, or rather the second to last thing, is the weather radar. So we make sure the weather radar is turned off, just because we don't want to be microwaving Terry and making sure he's never going to have any more children. Coming up to the front, we're just going to make sure that our autofeather test has passed, and it has. I'm going to turn the autofeather off now, so the white light goes out, and we're just going to finish off with one last panel on my side of the aircraft, coming over to the first officer's side pedestal. So pretty much the same as the captain's. Spigot light there for the ice detect, little ambient lighting there. Circuit breaker panel light for the circuit breaker panel behind myself. Backup transmitter for the push to talk there. De-icing pressure, which is reading 0 because everything's off. The flight deck oxygen supply, which is reading full, which is great. Emergency outflow valve just to the side of that. And I'm just going to move my side window heat, or rather blowers, to the on position there, because it does tend to steam up in this aeroplane. The cabin, the circuit breakers for the first officer side, by the way, are there, pretty much the same sort of format as the captain's. And come back to the middle, and hopefully our captain now is ready to pop back onto the flight deck and start his side of things.
Right, okay, so I'm back on board now, although you did hear my voice a little bit through the last part of Kami's workings. We'll just have to pretend that I was outside for that as well. I've done the fictitious walk around, which, like before, we talked about, not really much to show in the simulator. And just noticed as well, the winds are shifting a little bit, so we're going to suggest that actually we're going to be using runway 15 now off of Birmingham. They're shifting around. It's quite a calm, sunny day actually, and it's very slightly favouring runway 15, so we'll take runway 15. So I'm just going to switch my side over, and hopefully Kami will do his side, and we'll set that course now and the heading to 147. Get the heading bug. And I'll switch back to FMS 1. So also happen to notice that I may have accidentally hit the autopilot button on my joystick, and it's engaged the yaw damper. So I'm going to clear that. That was just a slight error on my part. Nothing to do with Kami, he was doing it all great. So I've switched it off there. It won't be switched on until the taxi checks anyway. And just something that wasn't really mentioned, the HSI select here, that's aligned to the pilot flying the next route. So on this first flight it will be me, the captain, flying, so the HSI is selected across to me. And also there's a little green HSI that will appear with an arrow to the opposite side if you haven't got it. So on my side you can see it's actually clear. If you look on Kami's side, the HSI is an arrow to the left over to my side. Right, so we've got our weather, we know what we're doing, and now we're going to look at getting our clearance, so we can then start setting up the FMS, which I'll run you through, and do some checks. So, Mr. Kami, sir, please can you get us a clearance?
Certainly, I shall try.
So first of all, we want to make sure we've got the right frequencies. So, shall I leave that to you, Cami, or would you like me to set any of them?
I think I'm capable. So
Okay.
we'll go down and we'll pop in Birmingham ground first of all on the active there, which is going to be 121.805.
1218 then.
And 1218 will have to do. We've not got 833 spacing on the sim yet. And we'll stick tower in the standby, so 1183 is going to be the closest we can get to that.
118. Three is set for you.
Okay, cool. So we've got the frequencies all dialed in there. 1218 is going to be our ground frequency, so I can now call up our friendly ground controller for a clearance. Birmingham ground, Jersey 1 Lima Victor, dash 8 Delta stands 8 left with information Golf QNH 1034. Request clearance to Amsterdam.
Jersey 1 Lima Victor, Birmingham ground, cleared at Amsterdam with Daventry 2 Yankee departure, squawk 3430.
Cleared on the Daventry 2 Yankee to Amsterdam, squawk 3430, Jersey 1 Lima Victor.
Jersey 1 Lima Victor, read back correct.
Perfect. So we've got the Daventry 2 Yankee is our departure, so that's going to come up when we program the FMS, and I think that covers it. We'll just talk about the setup on the PFDs, the flight guidance control panel, so we can get the flight mode annunciator in the correct state. So looking at our departure, Cami, would you agree at 6,000?
Yep, agreed.
Okay, so I'm going to set 6,000 there, as you can see, and then I am going to push the button on the side of the throttle, which basically triggers the go-around response on the flight guidance system, and I am then going to stick heading in, because we'll need a heading mode, and because we're going up to 6,000 we want this thing to capture and not bust through it. We're going to select out cell. So this is what you should see: go around, heading cell, out cell, 6,000 feet. That's ready for the departure there. So let's go on to the FMS. I'm going to bring it up on a little pop-up window here so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So we've done the initialization. Anyone interested, you can actually get the weather on the Unilink page. Text weather, type your station in here, and it'll bring it up. But you've already seen the weather at Birmingham, so we'll carry on knowing that. So the first part, let's set up the flight plan. Starting at Birmingham, I'm going to use the ICAO identifier for Birmingham, which is Echo Golf Bravo Bravo. That's our start point, airport Birmingham, sounds good to me. And we're off to Amsterdam, which is Echo Hotel Alpha Mike. Accept. Now we need to fill in between with our routing. So, Kitty, do you happen to have the operational flight plan open so we can see our first point after our Birmingham departure?
I do indeed.
What's the first point, please?
First point is UNGAP.
And for anyone who might be interested, this is sometimes actually how it works out. The first officer will have a clipboard with the waypoints and our clearances on it, and they can actually read it across to me and I'll fill it out. So I've typed in UNGAP, checked that it looks roughly right on the lat and long. That's in, and I believe, is it the Papa 155 airway?
That's correct, yeah.
So if you go to list and then airway, Papa 155, press 2. And where are we going out to with that one, Cami?
Yeah, Papa 155 all the way to Sivda.
That's in, and then it's Redford, I believe, after that. Is that right?
Yeah, direct to Redford.
There's no airway there, so it's just direct to Redford. Sticking that in the line, it'll basically fill the line above. So there we go, accept that. And that's our routing. Now we need to join the gaps with a SID, or a standard instrument departure, and a star, standard arrival, by going into the flight plan, which we're already on. Press menu once, and we'll start with depart. So we're on runway 15 today, number 1. And we are cleared on the Daventry 2 Yankee. That was the SID, was it not?
Correct, yeah.
Perfect. Number 3. Daventry 2 Yankee. And if I press flight plan there, now all the waypoints are loaded in. It should, yeah, this, because we're not, UNGAP is actually the end of the 3-3 departure. We're actually doing a 1-5 departure. It'll be Daventry to straight to Iboto. So you can delete the 2 lines between. What I'm going to do is just select there and type 13 for the Iboto line. and that's moved it up. Perfect. So that's the departure sorted, and as you can see it's up to 6,000 feet, which we have programmed. Now the arrival, flight plan, menu, arrive. We're going to assume that they're going to give us 18 right in Amsterdam, which is number 6. That can be changed in the cruise anyway. And the arrival, Cami, I believe, is it the Red for 1 Alpha?
Correct, yeah, it's the Red for 1 Alpha.
You might need to use the previous and next to go through the pages. So that's number 11 for the Red for 1 Alpha.
Lots and lots of procedures at Amsterdam.
Absolutely. And I'm going to be a wuss and take the 18 right ILS, which is number 2. You can also add a transition which will link up the end of the star to the start of the approach on the ILS. I will put that in for now. We're going via Sugol, that's the end of the star, and that just means that it could, if we want it to, fly it all the way around onto the actual ILS inbound course. Just delete that, no link there. It's a very good representation of the real aircraft. Right, so that's all in. There is normally as well a section to put your flight plan, sorry, your call sign on the second menu page on the flight plan page, but the call sign isn't available on this aircraft, so we'll leave that. Next we're going to our fuel page, and here we're going to input some items from both our loading and also our flight plan, our operational flight plan. So with the use of the control panel that we've used to set up the weight and balance of the aircraft and also the operational flight plan, I'll get my able assistant to read me out some numbers again. Can you tell me the fuel required to get to our alternates, please, Cami?
The fuel required for our alternates is 489 kilos.
489. And what's our final reserve or hold fuel, please?
645 kilos.
645. Perfect. We're taking no extra fuel. And on board we're going with 2,600 kilos, which is just enough for the flight. So 2,600. And is it 72 passengers we got on board?
Correct, yep, 72 passengers.
And just using the weight and balance now, please, Cami. What's the passenger total weight?
It is 6105 kilos.
Oh, 2 kilos out. I think that's close enough for government work. So we'll go with that one, and we've got 100 kilos of aft baggage, which gives us these figures. So zero fuel, I've got 24640, and gross weight of 27240. Should seem roughly correct. The flight plan might have a few little discrepancies. And just while you've got that weight and balance page open, Cami, can you just tell me what our Mach Tau is, or our takeoff C of G position?
Certainly, yep. It is 25.2.
25.2, and as a rule of thumb, guys, the forward edge is around 16%. The rear, I don't know why I'm pointing at the trim here, because that has nothing to do with that part. The rear C of G is about 32%. If it's all the way at the back, you want the trim all the way forward. If it's at 16%, so all the way at the front, you'd have the trim towards the back. We've got 25, so actually more or less in the middle. So that looks about right for the trim on the elevator. So this is good. We've now set this up for our departure. All that's left for me to do is now be very kind to Cami and copy it across to his side. They don't talk to each other, so we're going to use the crossfill function here on the init page. If you're not on that page, it's on the data page as well, crossfill. And we'll crossfill the flight plan. In progress. You can already see that his MFD has updated, and we'll send across the fuel information also. Perfect. Now, while we are discussing the weights, what we need to do is look up our performance for the given weight and program that in using our performance charts. Now, we said before we're using a operator-based one here, but you will have one with a prepared add-on also, so whichever one works for you guys. So if we can just bring up those speeds, Kitty, for, remember to round it up, guys, either 27.5 or 28 tons, whichever one is the closest.
So 27.5, we have the speeds are 29.
So I'm just
31.
going to press this button in here and start winding it on the dial. As you can see, it selects the first one. So V1 of 129. So
Correct,
dial
yeah.
that into 129. If you're struggling to see it there, let's just bring it up to full size. And did you say that would be 29 duplicated? And the V2 is
29, 29,
31.
31, yep. Go on, guess it.
I think it's 41
Yep.
and 53.
Yep.
Oh dear. This is a problem with knowing this aircraft quite well. Okay, so I've set that all on my side. So these are our performance speeds based on the current weight, and we're using 27.5 tons. We've got V1 rotate, V2, V-fry, and V-climb. Now, just a very brief overview. I can cover this in more detail in another video. V-fry is your flap retraction speed. So you pass that speed, you can retract your flap to 0, and V-climb is your one engine inoperative climb speed. These are both above acceleration altitude, which is your 1,000 foot above aerodrome level, and that's why we've got 1340. Let's just make sure that our wonderful assistant has the speed set on his side. So you've just got 41 and 53 to set there, Kitty, if you wouldn't mind.
Yep, certainly.
And if anyone was wondering, the first 3 speeds, this is another little character of the real aircraft as well. The first 3 speeds are synchronized across both left and right seats, but for some strange reason V-fry and V-climb have to be entered on both sides. 41, 53. Marvellous, he's done that. He's got the acceleration there, so we are all set up with the speeds. Just to reiterate as well, I didn't specify, you might want to know, that was a flap 5 departure that we're taking for our performance speeds there. Birmingham's a nice long runway here. When it starts to get quite short runways, you might want to consider a higher flap setting, certainly below, say, 1,600 metres and towards heavier weights. I would start looking at that. But Birmingham is a lovely long runway, so we'll take a flap 5 departure there. That's our performance done. So we're going to end this video there, and we will see you in the next video for our checklists, push, start, and then our taxi. And thanks for watching so far, guys.